Welcome back to the deep dive. We have a really interesting and, let's be honest, a bit of a provocative stack of documents on the table today.
It's definitely going to raise some eyebrows.
We're looking at that specific friction point where, ancient theology bumps up against modern science. You know that feeling you're reading a text that's thousands of years old and it makes a claim about the stars or the human body, and your modern brain just hits the brakes.
It just goes, wait a minute.
Exactly. That doesn't sound right.
It's a universal experience for anyone who reads these texts today. And usually the immediate reaction, the standard defense you hear is, well, hold on, it's a metaphor. You aren't supposed to take it literally.
But the metaphorical defense,
Yeah.
it's the get-out-of-jail-free card for any scientific error.
Precisely. But today's source material is, well, it's essentially a rebuttal to that card. It's a curated list, a sort of cheat sheet of 15 specific points where the author argues, no, look at the text closely. It's making a specific physical claim, and that claim is factually, demonstrably wrong.
And the context here is great, too. The author basically admits that nobody has the attention span for a 50-page theological treatise anymore.
Not in the age of TikTok and Twitter, no.
So this is the TLDR version of scientific skepticism. It's designed to be rapid fire.
It is. And our mission today is to walk through these 15 clashes from the timeline of the Big Bang down to the chemistry of the human body and see how the source argues that you can't just, metaphor your way out of them.
These are hard stops. So let's start with the biggest canvas possible, the universe itself. The source kicks off with what is essentially a massive scheduling conflict.
A cosmic scheduling conflict, yes. This covers points 1 and 11 in the list. It challenges the chronology of creation. The text lays out a very specific sequence. Earth is created first, mountains are placed on it, food is provided, and then...
And the source really stresses that word then.
It does. Then God turns to the heavens to finish the sky.
So if you're a project manager looking at the Gantt chart for the universe, it's step 1, build Earth. Step 2, build stars.
That's the narrative flow. And the source argues this is a cosmological impossibility. It's not a minor detail. It breaks the fundamental timeline of the universe.
Because we know that's backwards.
Completely backwards. We know from modern astrophysics that the universe began with the Big Bang roughly 13.8 billion years ago. The Earth, it didn't even start to form until about 4.5 billion years ago.
So there's a massive gap there.
A 9 billion year gap. For the vast majority of the universe's history, there was no Earth. There were stars, galaxies, nebulas, the heavens were doing their thing for eons before our solar system was even a dust cloud.
Now, I know the common defense here. I've heard apologists argue that the word then doesn't necessarily mean next in time. It could just mean and also.
Right, like if I said, I built the house and I built the garage, I'm just listing what I did, not necessarily giving you a timestamp.
Exactly.
The source actually anticipates that objection. That's why point 11 is so crucial. The text describes the heavens as being smoke while the Earth is already finished and has mountains. Smoke implies that primitive, early gaseous state of the universe. The source argues you simply cannot have a finished, food-producing Earth existing at the same time as a primitive, smoky universe.
Ah, I see. So it's not just the word then, it's the state of the materials. You can't have the child fully grown while the parent is still an embryo.
Exactly. The physics doesn't work. The timeline is reversed.
This connects to another point in the list, point 7, which talks about the heavens and earth being connected and then separated. I remember hearing this and thinking, oh, maybe that's the Big Bang.
That's the most popular modern interpretation. You see it on forums all the time. Look, it predicted the singularity.
Right. Everything was one point and then exploded.
But the source pushes back hard on that. It argues that this is a classic example of retrofitting, taking a modern discovery and forcing the ancient text to wear it like a costume.
Because the earth wasn't there at the Big Bang.
Exactly. The singularity wasn't a ball of earth and sky glued together. It was energy and matter quarks, gluons, eventually hydrogen and helium. The Earth is a specific ball of rock and iron that coalesced billions of years later from the debris of previous stars.
So to say they were separated at the start implies they both existed at the start.
Yes. The source calls this anachronistic. It's projecting a human view standing on Earth, looking up onto a cosmic event where Earth didn't even exist yet.
Speaking of the view from Earth, that seems to be a major theme in this list. The author argues that these texts describe the universe exactly how it looks to a human standing in a desert 1,500 years ago.
Not how it actually is physically, no. And that's most obvious in point 8. The text claims God holds the sky back from falling onto the earth.
Which begs the question, what is the sky in this context? Because when I look up, I see blue, but I know that's just light scattering.
Right. In our modern understanding, the sky is atmosphere. It's gas. Beyond that is the vacuum of space. There is no heavy object above us. There's no ceiling tile that can fall.
So saying, I'm holding the sky from falling is like saying I'm holding the fog from crushing you.
Or I'm holding the vacuum up. It's scientifically meaningless. But the source argues, if you believe in a flat Earth model with a solid dome, a firmament, then that verse is literal.
Oh, right. The structural claim.
Exactly. God is the pillar holding up the roof so it doesn't crush the flat disk of the Earth. The source says this verse only makes sense if you have that primitive, incorrect fear of the cosmos.
It really does paint a picture of a very terrified, ancient person worrying the blue roof is going to collapse.
Yeah.
And the source doubles down on this local universe idea when it talks about stars.
The decorations, yes.
Points 10 and 13. The text describes the nearest heaven, the lowest layer of the sky, as being decorated with stars.
And the critique here is all about scale. We know stars are distributed throughout the universe across billions of light years. The observable universe is masses beyond comprehension.
So to describe them as decorations on the nearest layer,
It's like fairy lights strung up on a low ceiling. It trivializes the vastness of the cosmos. It implies the stars are just right there.
but the imagery gets even more aggressive. This was the part of the list that really stuck with me because it feels so cinematic. The idea of shooting stars as missiles.
It is a very vivid image. This combines points 10, 13, and 14. The text says that these lamps or stars are thrown at devils who try to sneak up to the heavens to eavesdrop on the conversations of angels.
Okay, so let's apply the scientific reality filter the source is using. We have a few problems here.
Several. First, classification. A shooting star isn't a star. We know that now.
It's a meteor.
Right. Usually a pebble or a grain of sand burning up in our atmosphere. A star is a giant nuclear fusion reactor, often millions of times the size of Earth.
So throwing a star at a devil is overkill.
It's physically impossible. I mean, if a star moved near Earth, the entire solar system would be destabilized. We'd be vaporized. But the source argues the bigger issue is the distance. If devils are traveling to the heavens to eavesdrop, where are they going?
Good question.
The nearest star is Proxima Centauri, over 4 light years away. Are these demons traveling at warp speed?
It implies a small universe again, doesn't it? Like the heavens are just above the clouds. A quick trip up, hear some gossip, get a rock thrown at you, and come back down.
Exactly. The source argues this narrative just collapses the moment you understand what a light year is. It relies on the stars being small, close objects, missiles you can grab and throw.
And when we're talking about stars behaving badly, we have to talk about the end times. Point 15, the stars falling.
This is the sequel to The Sky is Falling. The text mentions stars falling or the sun being folded up and losing its light.
And gravity just doesn't work that way.
It doesn't. Stars are massive. Earth is tiny. If a star approached Earth, the Earth would fall into the star, not the other way around. But the source also mentions the life cycle of the sun. The text implies the sun will just go out.
Like unplugging a lamp.
Right. But astrophysics tells us the sun will expand into a red giant. It will grow so large it will likely swallow the inner planets, including Earth. It won't be a dark day. It will be an incineration event.
So the text describes a lights-out scenario, when reality is an everything burns scenario.
Exactly. The source argues the text misses the violent, expansive reality of stellar evolution.
It's interesting, the pattern the source is pointing out is that every time the text describes a physical event, it describes it in a way that feels very human-centric, very intuitive to a person on the ground, but scientifically wrong when you zoom out.
And that is a perfect segue to the next section, life, because that human-centric intuition extends to our own bodies.
Point 4, the creation of humans. The text says we are made from clay, or sounding clay, or mud.
The classic Potter creation myth. It appears in many ancient cultures.
But the source brings a chemistry textbook to this fight.
It does. It looks at elemental composition. If you analyze clay or soil, what do you find? It's mostly silicates. Silicon and aluminum, that's what dirt is made of.
And humans.
We are carbon-based life forms. We're made of oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen. We have trace amounts of other things, calcium, iron. But we contain very little silicon and almost no aluminum.
So chemically, we don't look like our parent material.
Not at all. If you bake a cake with flour, you find flour in the cake. If we were made of clay, you'd expect a lot more silicon in our bodies. We are fundamentally different stuff.
Now, the source includes the apologetic defense here,
Huh.
which is that clay just means the organic matter in the soil.
Right, the nutrients.
Yeah.
Which is a fair pivot. But the source argues that, stretching the language, clay usually means the mineral substance. It's another example where you have to squint at the text to make it fit the chemistry.
It's a reinterpretation.
It is. If the text said, "We created man from carbon and water," that would be a miracle. Saying mud is just observation of the ground.
Let's look at something lighter. Point 5. Birds.
Ah, yes. The verse states that none holds the birds up in the sky except God.
It's a beautiful poetic sentiment. I think anyone watching an eagle soar feels that.
It is. But the source critiques it as a falsifiable claim about physics. It says, actually, we know exactly what holds them up.
Aerodynamics.
Right, fluid dynamics, Bernoulli's principle. The shape of the wing creates lower pressure on top, higher pressure on bottom, lift. It's the same physics that keeps a Boeing 747 in the air. It's not a miracle, it's a mechanism.
And the defense here is usually, well, God created the mechanism.
Correct.
Yeah.
God created the laws of physics. But the source argues that the verse doesn't say God created the system that holds them up. It says only he holds them up. It dismisses the physical agency of the bird in the air.
So it frames flight as a constant supernatural intervention.
Rather than a natural phenomenon, yeah.
There's a quick philosophical jab in there, 2.3, about darkness. The text claims God created darkness.
And this is basic physics again. Darkness isn't a substance. It's not a thing you can bake or build. It's just the absence of light. You create photons. You don't create dark.
It's like cold. You don't create cold, you just stop heating the room.
Exactly. The source argues that treating darkness as a created object is a category error. It treats a void as a substance.
All right, let's move to the final section of our deep dive. We've done the cosmos, we've done the body. Now the source pivots to logic, history, and ethics. Now I want to start with the wall, point 6.
The story of Dul Qarnayn. The text describes a great ruler who builds a massive barrier of iron and copper between two mountains to trap the tribes of Gog and Magog.
This isn't a spiritual wall. It's a physical engineering project.
Mm-hmm.
Blocks of iron, molten copper.
Yes, a physical dam against a people.
And the source asks the obvious modern question. Where is it?
We live in the age of satellites. We have mapped the ocean floor. We have Google Earth. We can identify a car in a driveway from space. The source argues that a massive metallic wall sealing off an entire civilization simply does not exist on the map.
The defense is usually it's hidden or it's in another dimension.
Which brings us right back to the metaphor. If it's in another dimension, it's not a wall of iron and copper between two mountains. The source argues that the absence of evidence here is so overwhelming it becomes evidence of absence.
You can't hide a civilization in 2024.
Not one that large, no.
That leads us to the question of why we are here. Points 2 and 9 discuss the purpose of the cosmos. The text implies the universe was created for humans.
To serve us, and the source asks, does the architecture match the purpose?
It goes back to scale, right?
It does. I mean, think about it. If you were building a house for a family, would you build a structure the size of the solar system, fill 99.99% of it with lethal radiation and vacuum, and then give the family one microscopic room in the basement?
It seems inefficient.
The source argues it's illogical. The universe contains billions of galaxies. To say all of that, billions of light years of matter, is just a backdrop for one species on one small rock. It strikes the author as incredibly arrogant.
It suggests the universe is indifferent to us, not tailored for us.
Precisely. The scale suggests we are a byproduct, not the main event.
And that indifference leads us to the final and I think heaviest point in the list. Point 12. This is about suffering.
This is where the critique shifts from scientific to moral. The text claims that any misfortune that strikes you is the fruit of your own hands. It's a result of your actions.
Karma, essentially. You get what you deserve.
And the source rejects this vehemently.
Because of random chance.
Because of biology and geology. An earthquake doesn't check your moral credit score before it topples a building. A tsunami kills the saint and the sinner. But the most poignant example the source uses is childhood cancer.
That's a hard one to argue against.
If a 3-year-old develops leukemia, can you honestly look at that child and say, this is the fruit of your own hands. You did this.
That's brutal.
The source argues it's not just brutal, it's false. We know about genetics now, we know about cell mutation. Sometimes DNA just copies wrong. It's not a moral failing, it's a biological glitch.
It's a statistical probability.
And to assign blame to the victim, especially a child, is a deep moral failure of the text, according to this analysis.
It forces you to choose between a universe governed by moral laws, where bad things only happen to bad people, and a universe governed by physical laws, which are blind.
And the source argues the evidence clearly points to the physical laws. The cancer cell doesn't care if you are a good person. The tectonic plate doesn't care if you pray.
So let's zoom out. We've walked through this list. We have a text that puts Earth before the stars. It holds up a solid sky. It throws meteors at eavesdropping demons. It makes men out of clay instead of carbon. And it blames victims for their own genetics.
When you stack it all up like that, the metaphorical defense stops looking like a way to interpret the text.
And starts looking like a rescue mission.
A rescue mission, that's the source's ultimate conclusion. The only way to keep believing these texts are divinely accurate is to stop reading them as statements of fact. You have to say, oh, it's poetry or it's a metaphor, because if you treat it as a description of reality, it fails the test.
As science advances, as we learn about plate tectonics and DNA and astrophysics, the literal claims of the text have to retreat. The God of the gaps gets smaller.
Exactly. The text doesn't change, but our willingness to read it literally shrinks. We retreat into metaphor to save the belief.
It's a fascinating look at how we process information. It's not just about debunking verses. It's about the length we go to preserve a worldview. We see the friction, and instead of accepting the error, we rewrite the meaning.
Knowledge is often about letting go of what we want to be true in favor of what is true. And that is a painful process.
That's a great way to put it. And I want to leave you with a thought on that wall of Gog and Magog we discussed. We always hear the phrase, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. But at what point does that flip? If I tell you there is an elephant in the room, and we look everywhere, under the rug, in the closet, and we don't see it, at some point, the absence of the elephant is the evidence.
That is the question.
If a text requires you to constantly rewrite its meaning to survive the modern world, are you following the text, or are you just dragging it along behind you? Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.